So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to this interview, Tête-à-tête, with Patricia Kopatchinskaja, the violinist, invited this year to the Aix-en-Provence Festival for a portrait in 4 concerts. So, welcome to you, Patricia Kopatchinskaja. This year you are invited, as I said, to perform 4 concerts as part of the program of the Aix-en-Provence Festival. How do they fit together? I mean, what do you want to highlight with these 4 performances?
Well, an artist is actually never really ready for something. I think we are always on a way in a process. And I could never do something with anniversaries of composers or preparing something for a commission. I think it's always the question, what can you share with an audience that is more or less ready to go on stage? But it's never finished, you know. Like a recording, when I hear myself how I played 5 years ago, I'm in another development. It's like a train going all the time, and there are some stations. So this is what I want to share with an audience in Aix-en-Provence. The things which I discovered for myself, where I have fun with it, and I think I can tell them a story, a very special, personal, something what they maybe did not, what they cannot buy in a supermarket, you know.
What does it mean to you to play at the Aix-en-Provence Festival, and especially, of course, some classics, but also lesser known pieces of the solo or of the chamber repertoire?
I like very much unknown things. I'm very attracted to also difficult, problematic things. I'm more afraid of known things, of something what everybody knows and expects me to play like they have it on a CD at home, you know. This doesn't really interest me. An unknown piece is always a chance to discover new sounds, new stories, new territories. So I'm very confident that with new things I can find the language with an audience which I actually don't know. I'm the first time here. This is always a question: can we share an adventure together or not? And it doesn't depend only from me. It is always a chemistry between the listener and the player. Because don't forget, where is the beginning of an piece of art? Let's say it's a vision, or it's an idea coming in a different time, coming into the mind of a composer or an artist, going through him. It's already filtered through his eyes, through his imagination, and his possibilities to write it down or to make out of this something. So we have a paper with written notes, and the question is, what is it? Is it the piece? In my opinion, it's not the piece. The piece is what is coming out of these written sketches. For me, it's always a sketch, it's never ready, coming through a soul, an instrumentalist, a singer, also an artist. We're also artists. We're not just slaves of a written music. And then it finds its destination in the mind of the listener. You see, the way is very, very long. And it is also quite complex, because sometimes the same piece sounds completely different, even in the same hands, in different times in my life. I understood pieces in a very different way. That's why it's never the same. It's living like us, speaking different languages also to different audience. And I found in the first concert in X, the audience very, very attentive, playing for them Enescu Sonata. It's not so easy because it's indeed very exotic music. You cannot compare it with any other violin sonata. And they were so silent and concentrated. I liked very much this energy. And in fact, I'm not looking for success or being liked. This is not the tools in my construction, in my furniture of my mind. My task is just to transport, to suggest a story, a possibility of a story. And that's it. Whether they like it or not, it's another question.
And one of the projects you are presenting this year is based on Schoenberg's Pierrot Lunaire. Can you tell us a little more about this particular project and its characteristic, because it's so original?
Well, it's something that I still didn't understand, and I also don't want to understand. This text is so absurd. It's already almost Dadaistic. It's somehow made out of insane fantasies. And I like very much to do it because it transforms me to a figure which always surprises. Pierrot never knows what he really does. What is his plan? How will he survive in this concert or in this theater production? And what I like very much about this particular project is to work with Silvia Costa, who invented a funambulist, a dancer on the tightrope. And I like it because it belongs to Pierrot, who appeared in the 19th century in Paris. Théâtre de Funambule. That was the place where they had acrobats, and Pierrot actually was born because he could not do anything in acrobat things. He was not able. So his father said, okay, be something. Let's make a figure out of you. And they remembered Pierrot out of Commedia dell'arte. And so it's always like an empty white paper for me. He always writes his new jokes every day, trying to get attention out of the audience. And in fact, he's beloved by the audience because he's so innocent and naive, but he also can be very dangerous. And and he does not speak. He is mute. At least at that time, it was prohibited in the theater to speak in Paris because it was a political matter. And I like it very much how he, without words, can still have a great power. A great power of the art is to find another way to touch people and to open their hearts.
And in this piece, you are acting, playing, and so you are an artist who constantly pushes the boundaries between the genres, and your concerts are getting closer and closer to performance art. So can you come back to this interdisciplinary dimension that drives you as an artist, and why does it drive you?
I think the boundaries are there where you put them. But if you just ignore them, they don't exist. People 200 years ago, they couldn't imagine they could fly or, have a Zoom meeting or whatever, telephone, telegram, internet. It was absolutely unimaginable. But as soon they can imagine something, it becomes the reality. This is something incredible, actually. So everything is possible in the end. You just have to imagine it. The boundaries are here. And I think an artist cannot just keep himself in a box all his life, and he must make mistakes. He must try, the walls everywhere. Where can I do something? Where can I express something? Where can I learn things? How can I connect this and that? And today we have so many possibilities: electronic, video, human being, artificial intelligence. One could do so many things, and still the stories are very, very much our old stories of human beings. We should not forget that we are vulnerable and weak also. So I don't care about styles or genres or boundaries. It's just a life in art. And I have no idea what will be in 20 years with me. Maybe I will be a Buddhist somewhere on the top of the mountain, and maybe I will change my gender. I have no idea. But for now, I feel very happy to work with my beloved friends and musicians and create new things, also theatralic things, scenic things. I think a musician should not think that he's just someone who follows the rules written on paper. We have so many possibilities. We are sometimes 2 hours on stage, stared by thousands of people. We have such a power, don't you think so? A politician has to pay lots of money and to lie a lot in his life to get such a intensity. We also have a task, I think, that we can also talk about important messages.
Yeah, that was my next question. The stories you are telling us, and they are also opening new practices, and you can reach a public and a new public with it. And do you feel invested with a role or some responsibilities towards music, towards society, and toward the public?
Not only as an artist, as a person, as a citizen, as a mother, as a woman. I have responsibilities, and trying to change the mindset of our society, I think this is our last chance to survive on this Titanic, facing the climate catastrophe. And being an artist, it's such a privilege and a great chance to get the attention of many people at once. And I think there is no sense to play again and again the same symphony of Beethoven or Brahms. Nothing against these wonderful composers, but I think we have really to rethink our position in the society and not giving up all the responsibility to selected politicians who actually don't do anything, because the majority of the population of this planet does not understand and is not educated that they are aware of what is our very, very near future. And Greta Thunberg said in her genius words that having a conference about environment and not giving a speech to a scientist, this says everything. So we as musicians, as citizens, as people are, we have to do something to speak to our audience through the music, through the programming, through the ideas, through our behavior also. Let's not fly so much. Let's use more trains. Let's reduce or rethink our way of using the resources of our planet. Because even a parasite knows that if a parasite eats the host, it kills himself. Even a small worm has a better brain than us, because we eat this planet and we don't realize that we kill the Homo sapiens.
So in your opinion, artists have a really good place to speak about social subjects, like they are in the center of something of the debates.
We have to take this power and to consider it as a very important thing. This is now the last call.
But there is also often talk of a crisis in classical music, you know, this problem of renewing the audience, of accessibility for all social classes to concerts. How do you feel about this situation? How do you experience it?
You know, I don't know, do we have a crisis? Sometimes I think when an artist operates with his heart and his full dedication, a concert cannot go wrong. The audience is not so stupid as we think. I think we can give them a much more experimental and risky things, food, you know, for their brain. They will not they will not be offended if we make mistakes on stage. I think we think a bit wrong, because the recording industry made a big mistake in presenting musician as a perfect monuments, but we are not. And making mistakes, we make ourselves vulnerable and completely open to the audience. I think it's also important to talk to the audience, to tell them very personal encounter with this music, with this piece. They don't need scientific analysis in the concert, but I think they like to hear the musician, also the voice, and his fairy tale about what he's going to play. This communication, I think we could do better, and also trust to young generation, give them more opportunities to play games on stage, you know, like cat and mouse, in this sense, to have more fun, to discover completely new languages, you know, to play Beethoven in a way you never heard this composer, to combine it also with, I don't know, I'm sure they have much better ideas than us older people. I think the stage should be like a play ground for children, not having the character of the priest in the church and then the applause, but much more same level of discovering with the audience.
Yeah, that was also one of my next questions. Do you think we have to also rediscover the principle of concerts, like to rethink a new way of making concerts, which in classical music are really visualized? Because I have the impression that you are also an artist who invents other forms of concerts, other ways of making music, of being on stage as a musician, but also as an artist. So what are your point of view on that question?
You know, the story of Commedia dell'arte. In that time, these were people gathering together, deciding, I'm Colombine, I'm Arlecchino, I'm Pierrot, I'm Dottore, I'm Pantalone. Good. So they traveled from one village to the next. And after the market in the evening, they organized a stage. The stage was very small, like 3 meters. Can you imagine how small the stage was? And they did not decide the plot before the performance. So they had only the order of the appearance, and they jumped on the stage and then they improvise the story. So this is exactly the opposite of today. And that time they did not know what will happen, and that's why the audience went to hear a new story. Today, the audience goes to the concert to hear always the same old story. This is the biggest difference for me. If you would give the freedom to the artist to be inventive in the moment, I think many things would happen that you cannot write down. We need an audience which allows us to make experiments on stage, a laboratory. And sometimes an experiment goes wrong. Excuse us then in this case, but let's laugh together and wait for the next performance. So today we have very strict ways of making a concert. It's always an ouverture, a concerto with a soloist, and an interval, and a symphony. This can be immediately refreshed if you just change something. You start, for example, with a piece for a balloon. Yeah, and that changes immediately the perspective of the people. So they start to observe the balloon, and then there is something else on stage, and then you could hear a music of Renaissance, and then music written today, and then maybe some electronics, and then suddenly you have an orchestra, and they play a symphony, and this is sensational to hear. I don't know, a Haydn symphony, for example, the clock symphony. But let's put a big clock in front, and do something with that. You could make so many things just opening up the old so-called traditional schematic square understanding of a concert, also involving the audience. But I think many people do that. I'm not alone, and it's so beautiful to see how many ideas are growing up now. I think we have good chances to reform a little bit this boredness. I'm so often bored being in the audience. It's a big problem. And sometimes very conservative concerts can become a wonder if the musician is so convincing and so focused in his heart and core of what he does, that I don't think it's about the structure of the concert. It's just about our mindset.
But this is also linked to the repertoire we are playing, because we have to articulate like the well-known repertoire, the very much played pieces that are much less approach modern music, but also contemporary creation, for example, which you defend in many projects. How, for example, do these different music fit into your work? How do you make them together?
All that belongs together. It's like mushrooms. You just see them coming out of the ground, but under the ground, they're all connected. When I play Ligeti concerto, for example, I see the ghosts of the spirits of Gesualdo, of Haydn, of Bartók, of course, of Kodály, of African music, of minimal music, of everything. Everything is on stage. And when you start to highlight some things out of this piece which belong together, like a very good gallerist hanging the pictures, you know, you can hang a Mona Lisa and then a drawing of a baby, and then I don't know, Picasso and something else, and then you have a new salad of plants, and it is refreshing.
What would you give as advices to young musicians that are embarking now on a career today?
Believe into yourself, find your own way, do not limit yourself, and try everything what you've got on your mind. And go out of any boxes, and never stop to dream. Never stop to dream. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this really interesting discussion.
Thank
To
you.
our auditors that are watching us and who attend this meeting, thank you for your attention. We wish you amazing concert with Patricia Kopatchinskaja and a very beautiful 2021 edition of the Aix-en-Provence Festival.
Thank you.